Hi everyone, so this is my first YouTube video and I've been contemplating making YouTube videos for a while now. I'm not gonna lie, I've always thought, I want to start a channel, I want to get my points and views across on certain things, and I also want to sort of do a beauty side of it, which I'm still contemplating because I'm doing that at college next year, so possibly open to that. But today I really needed to make an important video, and it's really still raw to me what's happened, and I feel like if this could help somebody, whether they be a boy or a girl, anyone, like if this could change somebody's life by me telling my truth, I think it's worth it. And I feel like I'm gonna get some backlash for this because people know who I'm on about, and I know he's probably going to see this and his family are going to see this, and fair enough. Like, I'm sorry in a way for saying it, but it needs to be said. It's necessary. I cannot be silent for the sake of people that are not really going to be part of my life anymore. So I need to talk about my ex. Now, we only broke up like 2 days ago, so obviously this is still very raw. And everyone's probably like, whoa Emily, like, could have waited a minute. But I need to get it off my chest. So, I broke up with him. I'm not going to name names. If you know me, you'll know who I'm on about. But I don't want to like drag him because that's not what this video is about. It's about emotional abuse and how to recognise it. So basically, when I first got with him, he took me out on a date. And he was so lovely, like bless him, he was lovely, and I was head over heels for him, and all my friends will tell you that he charmed me, he really did, and my mum and dad loved him, my brother knew him anyway, and they all really liked the guy, and he was really genuine at the start, and he took me to Birmingham for my birthday, and he bought me a card, and he bought me Thorntons, and he was amazing, and I really saw a future with him. So a few months progress, and I won't go into too much detail about certain things because it's not my it's not my choice to tell people. But basically, I was at school and I was just on my phone at lunch, and I was with my best mate Laura, and I was looking at his story because you just check out your boyfriend's story. Well, he wasn't my boyfriend at the time, but I was getting with him. And I got to this point where it's like, oh, like my photo for a shout out, right? So fair enough. He like shouted these girls out, right? But he'd posted pictures of them where they were literally like the most nude they were on their Instagram. Like he'd picked the sluttiest picture of them. Not slutty, but you know what I mean, like where they were showing the most flesh deliberately. And like it wasn't like it was their recent photo. He like scrolled down some of these girls' photos and chosen that photo. And I was like, I just started bawling my eyes out crying. I rang him and I was like, what the hell? Like, why would you post this? It's so disrespectful. And he was just there like, why are you going mental for and all this? And he was supposed to pick me up that day. And he was like, yeah, I'm not going to fucking pick you up if you're going to just be a bitch to me and all this. So I needed a ride home and I was like, oh, I'm over it. It's fine. Like, I'm not going to have a go at you, please pick me up. And he was like, okay, so we agreed to it. So he picked me up and it was silent the whole journey because I didn't want to argue with him while he was driving. So we got to McDonald's and we got to the car park. He went and got his McDonald's. I phoned Laura and I was like, do I speak to him? And she's like, get it all off your chest before you get home. So he got back in the car and I was like, look, we need to talk. And he's I never knew this at that point, but he never communicated properly, he never wanted to resolve anything. And this was like the first occurrence where he didn't want to talk about it. So I sat him down and I was like, look, we're not going to work if we don't set boundaries and we don't talk about like what we can and can't do and what's going to upset the other person and all this. And as soon as I said that I couldn't be with someone like that if he wasn't going to change, like he didn't hear me out. He just assumed I was going to break up with him, and all of a sudden this look just came on his face, and it was like a psycho sort of look. I can't explain it. And he started the car and I was like, don't you dare drive when you're angry. And he wasn't listening to me. He just went into this like, I don't know how to explain it. It was like he was blocked off from me. And he started driving, and if anyone lives in Telford and knows the McDonald's I'm referring to, you come out the car park and there's a roundabout, and he didn't stop. we almost crashed into a BMW, and he was going about 40 miles an hour, and he went through 2 red lights. And I proper shit myself. I was screaming. I was like, please stop the car. And like, he wouldn't. And he was like, I want to die at that point. And I was like, what? And he was like, I want to die. I was like, don't put my life in jeopardy. I was crying my eyes out. We got home. I don't know how we got home in one piece, but we managed to. And I was so like shocked, and he was acting like nothing had happened when I tried to speak to him. I was like, what the fuck was that about? And he was like, what are you on about? And I was just there like, am I going crazy? And then I got in, I told him to go sit in the conservatory so I could speak to my mum, and I told my mum, and she was like, what the hell, it's up to you what you do, because these were early days. So I was like, oh, he's just like took it the wrong way. So I went into him, and he was like staring at a wall, and like, this was one of his breakdowns, and I don't really want to talk about it because it's his mental health and he can't help it, and the way he handled it wasn't right, but I'm not going to blame him for like having what he had. But he wouldn't communicate with me, and he was like glassy-eyed, and in the end he came around and he acted like nothing happened, so I just went along with it. So then he had another breakdown not long after, and like I just had to sit with him and calm down. Like, my mum has depression, so I know sort of how to handle it, but he never wanted to talk to me about anything, so it was difficult because at least my mum spoke to me about how she felt. So then I'm trying to think what else happened. We basically went on a weekend away, right? And oh no, well, I'll get on to the next one in a minute because this happened after that. But we were meant to go on a weekend away, and he did this thing where he used to like put me down. He used to call me like chubby or fat, and like he used to call me derogatory nicknames like fat little sausage and squidge and everything. Like, that could be interpreted as cute, but like it really upset me, and I let him know that, and he didn't stop. And he was saying it to me while I was packing to go on this weekend away, and I was like stop, just being an asshole. Like, do you want to say anything else to upset me? So like he was like, yeah, my ex is hot. And I was like, at that point I just lost it. I was like, get out. And he thought I was joking. I was like, get out of my house. And he was just there like, are you being serious? So I was like, get out of my house. Started unpacking my bag, and he was just there like, right, fine, and like stormed out of my room. And I grabbed his arm on the way out, and I was like, you're not going to say sorry? But when I grabbed his arm, he turned around and I thought he was going to hit me, like the way he did it. And he didn't hit me, but like it really scared me. And then when he was like, what? I was just there like, are you not going to say sorry? And he was like, well, does that mean you'll come? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I'm sorry, and started hugging me. Like, it's a bit psycho to go from like having a huff and like storming out the house to being like, I'm sorry, and hugging me after. I don't know. So like I went on a weekend away, and it was alright, but like he sort of kept flipping at me. Like, we got to the room, and I was like, I'm so grateful, like thank you and everything. Like, I was genuinely grateful for what he'd done. And there wasn't a shower, and I was like, oh, we haven't got a shower. And he was like, yeah, be ungrateful, why don't you? I wasn't even being ungrateful. I was just like, we haven't got a shower, like we just work with a bath. Like, and he ripped my head off. And I took him out for a meal, and like he didn't really thank me. And then I didn't work at the time because of my GCSEs, so I only had like 100 quid, and I spent all of it on him, and I had a £5 to last me for the last day, and it was a £5 for a hot dog. And I asked him to buy me one, and he didn't get me a drink. His mate ended up buying me a drink at the festival / car show / whatever the hell it was. And I was just there like, wow, like really? So the biggest like turnaround point for my family in like how they felt about him was when I was at my, well, they're not my auntie and uncle, but you know what I mean, you call them your auntie and uncle. I was there, and we were joking around. I was sending him photos of me and the little boys, and I was like, I really want kids and everything. He was like, no, I'm never having kids. And I was like, that's a deal breaker, like clearly being sarcastic. So it wasn't even initially straight after I said it. It was about half an hour later. He was like, we're done. And I was like, what? And he was like, you know what you've done, like you disgust me, like get out my face, fuck off, don't ever speak to me again. So I went up to the ensuite, and I started crying my eyes out trying to call him, and he kept declining all my calls. And I was just there like, what have I done, what have I done? And I sent him a video in the end of me crying on Snapchat, being like, please answer me. And my mum found me upstairs in the middle of all of it, and saw a message of him saying, you disgust me, you know what you've done. And she was like, what the hell's going on? I was like, he's broken up with me. And long story short, my mum crashed the new car because she was so angry and everything. And I got home, and he was like, do you want to come for dinner tomorrow? And I was like, wait, was that all a joke? And he was just there like, yeah, lol, got you. And I told him that my mum had crashed the car and that they were all really angry. And he rang me and he was like, oh my god, your parents hate me now. And it was like, it wasn't even like, I'm sorry to you. It was like, oh no, I don't want to jeopardise my, like, my demeanour with your parents. Like, he didn't even care that I was upset, really. And like, it was really awkward the next day when I went round his, but like, we sort of got over it and we sort of moved forward. But then he started being ignorant towards me and ignoring my texts and my calls, and like, he stopped coming as often as he did. Like, he used to come like 4 or 5 times a week to stay over, and then he started making stupid excuses, and I was just there like, he doesn't care anymore. And he started ignoring my texts and my calls, and then he'd be like, oh, don't be silly and everything, like, I'm busy and all this, and he wasn't. And like, when he was at a car show with his mate, I said to his mate, I was like, you're talking to me more than my own boyfriend. And he was like, really? Because he's just been sat in the car for half an hour on his phone and he hasn't replied to you? I was like, no. And he was like, oh my god, that's awful. And I was like, I felt horrible, because I was like, wow, your friend cares about me more than you do. So I tried speaking to him the other day. I tried making things up, because I tried to break up with him, and he was like, why are you being silly for? And like, did that thing he always does, where he makes me feel like I'm going crazy, like nothing's wrong. And I was just there like, well, you know, you ignore me and everything. He just sat there and he ignored me. He was twiddling his thumbs, and I was just there like, you're not going to say anything, because I can't be with you if you're just like not going to handle things. And he was like, well, what do you want me to say? And I literally gave him what to say, and he repeated it like a child, and he didn't even say he was sorry. And then unfortunately, like, I spent the night with him, and I feel like that was good to get it out of my system though. And then he was ignoring me and like not coming round, so I composed a text with my friend the other night, and I basically said that he doesn't treat me properly and I don't want to be with him anymore. And his response was, yeah, that's sound. And then when I tried calling him at 1 in the morning when I was like having a proper breakdown, he was just there like, well, I'm not being funny, like, why do you care, like, you broke up with me, I don't care. And he started being sarcastic with me because I said I'd have dropped everything for him, and he was like, what were you prepared to drop? Your exam revision? And then he said, after I replied and was like, you know what, you're an arsehole, he was just there like, you know what, I never really cared about you, that's why I struggled to, like, you know, portray it. And I was just there like, you literally sent me messages saying that I'm the only girl you ever thought about taking down the aisle, and you always used to tell me how much you loved me and cared about me and that I was your best friend, and despite the time difference between me and your other girlfriends, like, I was the person you loved the most, and you spent virtually like most nights with me. And it's like, how can you do that to somebody that you don't really care about? Like, I don't buy it. Like, honestly, I really don't. I feel like he's just been hurt so much that he's in this mentality he can just treat girls horribly and they'll just carry on like being with him and accepting it. But I'm a strong female, and at the end of the day, when somebody makes you feel like you're going crazy and doesn't want to resolve things, and he like makes you think that you're making things up or that you're being silly, like, that's emotional abuse. And when someone like has a go at you and then tries to put like it on you as opposed to taking responsibility, that's emotional abuse. That's getting in someone's head. Like, it's ridiculous. And if you're not happy with somebody, you don't tell them that you love them, etc. Like, it's not right. I don't know how to explain it. I just want to let everyone know that you don't have to be with somebody like that. My heart hurts because I loved him and I was with him for 5 months and I spent virtually all my time with him. But I can't have that lack of self-respect to really take a step back and be like, I'm going to stay with him. Because honestly, there's 7 billion people on this planet and I'm 16, and I don't need to be putting up with someone's bullshit and someone's lack of care when I'm so young and I don't deserve it, and I've only ever been good to him. So this is just a message to all those girls that are in a similar situation to what I was in. Don't put up with it. Don't. No matter how much you love him or think you love him, like, if he isn't willing to send a message or call you and let you know he's okay, like, he's not worth your time, babe. And like, the thing I noticed is he like used to sit with me, and like his mum or dad would ring and he'd let the phone ring, and he ignores everyone's calls and texts. And his mum, I'm not going to go into detail, it's not my business to say, she was quite ill over Christmas and he expressed that he was upset over it, and he wouldn't even answer the phone to her. So it's like, if somebody's willing to treat their ill mother like that, how are they going to treat you? Like, if you can't ever, if there's more negatives than positives, you've got to really reconsider whether you want to be with that person. And it's going to hurt for a while, and you're going to think what, like, it's the wrong choice, but it's not. You can't have somebody that toxic in your life. And I just want to let everyone know that it's okay to not be okay. It's okay to cry and be upset, because in the end everything's planned out for you, and you're going to have many more heartbreaks before you find the right one. And like my auntie said, she said you're going to have loads of frogs before you find a prince. So I just want to let everyone know that you're not on your own, and you don't deserve to be treated like that, and you deserve better. So thank you for watching, and I hope this helped somebody at least. So